Office coffee thief kept stealing my French roast, so I started a year-long petty revenge campaign that ended with her exiled to a floor with only instant coffee. If you've never had your morning coffee sabotaged, you don't know the kind of rage that can bubble up inside a person before 9 a.m. Coffee, for me, isn't just a beverage. It's a ritual, a sacred pre-meeting meditation, a lifeline tethering me to the shreds of my humanity before I have to smile at people and nod like I care about their weekend plans. I am not a morning person. I am a coffee person. Those two are not the same thing. Which is why, when Brenda started messing with the office coffee, she might as well have been poking a bear with a stick, except the bear had student loans and a very fragile grip on corporate professionalism. I work in an office that is equal parts tech startup and corporate purgatory. You know the type, open plan desks because collaboration fosters innovation, but also weekly metrics reviews that make you want to innovate an escape route via the nearest window. We have kombucha on tap because our CEO read about it in Fast Company, but can't get a working air conditioning system in the summer. The only constant in this chaos is the break room, specifically the coffee corner. It's not fancy, but it's ours. A mid-tier drip machine, a single-serve Keurig for emergencies, and a communal fridge stocked with creamers, oat milk, and the occasional unlabeled Tupperware of leftovers that should probably be reported to the CDC. And then there's me with my pride and joy, a bag of imported French roast beans, hand-ground every morning in my tiny apartment before work. I keep them in an airtight container in the fridge, labeled clearly. Not for communal use. The label has a smiley face. I'm polite like that. Brenda arrived about 6 months into my tenure. Mid-40s, floral blouses, hair always in a tight bun that looked like it was punishing her scalp. She had the energy of someone who had been middle management for so long she thought it was a personality trait. From day one, she made it clear that she ran the kitchen. She had opinions on the right way to load the dishwasher, which mugs were hers, even though they were company property, and exactly how long one could leave a personal lunch in the fridge before it was fair game. She also had a coffee habit that bordered on religious devotion, but she didn't buy good coffee. Oh no. Brenda bought the cheapest store-brand pre-ground coffee you could find, the kind that tastes like wet cardboard and sadness. And she brewed it strong, like she was trying to make up for the flavor with sheer caffeine brutality. It started small. I came in one Monday morning, bleary-eyed, ready to brew my French roast. I opened the fridge, and my coffee container was half empty. Not, maybe I miscounted scoops empty. I mean half gone. I looked around the office like I was in a crime drama. No one met my eye. Brenda wasn't even in yet. I let it slide. Maybe someone made an honest mistake. By Wednesday, the container was almost empty. I slapped a fresh, bigger label on it. For my name, only seriously, please don't use. Still with a smiley face, because I was raised right. Friday, I came in to find the container completely empty. And in its place, a bag of Brenda's cheap coffee, open and sitting in my container. Like she decided my airtight French roast vault was now her personal storage bin. I wish I could say I handled it with grace, but I just stood there, staring at the fridge muttering, what the actual hell? Like a sitcom character who just found out their spouse was cheating. From that week on, it became a pattern. I'd bring in fresh beans, she'd use them. I'd label them, she'd ignore it. Sometimes she'd even leave a passive-aggressive post-it on the empty container. Out of coffee, smiley face. As if she were doing me a favor by letting me know she'd drained my supply. When I confronted her about it the first time, she laughed. Oh, I didn't think you'd mind. You bring in so much, and mine's not as good. Not as good. Not as good. That was the moment I knew we were on a collision course. The incident happened 3 weeks later. I came in early, earlier than Brenda, which was rare, and found her at the counter, pouring my freshly ground beans into the machine. I froze in the doorway. She looked up, smiled like we were best friends, and said, these were too pretentious anyway. I'm making a pot for everyone. And then, and I swear to you, I'm not exaggerating, she picked up the rest of my beans and threw them in the trash. The trash. Next to a crumpled tuna sandwich wrapper. That's the exact moment I decided. I was going to end her reign. Not with violence. Not with HR. But with petty, methodical, caffeinated revenge. I didn't say anything in that moment. I just stood there, holding my travel mug like it was the only thing tethering me to sanity, while Brenda poured the water into the machine. Her back was turned, so she couldn't see me counting in my head, not to 10, but to 20, because 10 wasn't going to cut it. Don't worry, she said, without looking up. I'll make it nice and strong. You'll thank me. I left the kitchen without a word, sat at my desk, and started working. Or rather, I stared at my inbox while my brain played a loop of she threw them away, she threw them away, she threw them away. The thing about open offices is that everyone sees everything. And while most people pretend not to notice, there's always at least one person who's a walking office CCTV. For us, that person was Marcy from accounting. At exactly 10:15 a.m., she sidled over to my desk like she was delivering contraband. You know she's been doing that to other people too, right? She whispered. I blinked. Doing what? Stealing their coffee. Sometimes tea. Sometimes creamers. She took a whole carton of oat milk from Sophie last week and claimed she thought it was expired. I raised an eyebrow. And Sophie believed her? Marcy smirked. Oh, Sophie knows. She's just waiting for someone else to say something. Nobody wants to be the bad guy. I sipped my water, because God forbid I drink Brenda's brew, and said, guess I'll be the bad guy then. That afternoon, I approached Brenda at her desk. She was typing with the speed of someone who wanted everyone to see how very busy she was. Hey Brenda, I said with my best neutral tone. Just wanted to ask if you could avoid using my coffee in the fridge. I bring it from home, and it's kind of expensive, so. She waved a hand dismissively. Oh, lighten up. It's just coffee. Besides, we're all sharing here. Community spirit. Right, but. Don't worry, she interrupted again. I'll bring in some of my own tomorrow. She did not. By the following Monday, I'd ordered one of those ridiculous airtight food safes from Amazon. The kind meant for keeping kids out of snacks. I put my coffee container inside, locked it, and tucked it back into the fridge. Tuesday morning, I opened the fridge to find my lockbox sitting on the counter, unlocked. Next to it, Brenda's post-it. Don't be so dramatic, smiley face. Fine. If she wanted sharing, I could do sharing. I brought in a second bag of coffee, a truly awful $3 store-brand blend. I labeled it communal coffee, free TO all. Within 2 days, the communal coffee was untouched, and my French roast was gone again. It was around this point that the rest of the office began to take sides. Team Brenda. 2 interns who didn't drink coffee but liked her baked goods. Team me. Everyone else who valued a functioning caffeine supply chain. Even people who didn't like me were starting to get annoyed. Brenda's thefts weren't limited to me. She'd borrow other people's sugar, flavored syrups, almond milk, you name it. She once drank an entire bottle of cold brew that wasn't hers and claimed it was an accident because the label was too small. By the end of the month, there were whispered conversations in corners, conspiratorial glances in meetings, and one poorly disguised Google Doc titled Coffee Crimes, where people kept adding incidents. I wish I could say it was the bean theft that pushed me over the edge, but honestly, it was the smell. It was a Thursday. I just finished making myself a travel mug of my coffee, after hiding my beans in my desk overnight, when Brenda walked in with her mug, took one look at me, and wrinkled her nose. That smells too strong. You're going to stink up the whole office. And that, my friends, was it. Not the theft. Not the condescension. Not the repeated ignoring of polite requests. No, it was the audacity of criticizing my coffee, the coffee I had smuggled past her like contraband, that broke something deep inside me. I took a slow sip, met her gaze over the rim of my mug, and said, "You're right. This coffee's not for everyone." I walked away before she could respond, my mind already spinning with possibilities. Revenge, I decided, was going to be slow. It was going to be subtle. And it was going to be satisfying. This wasn't about one stolen bag of beans anymore. This was about justice. About principle. About teaching Brenda that the office coffee supply was not a dictatorship. I opened my laptop, pulled up a blank document, and typed at the top, Operation Brouhaha. Revenge planning is a lot like brewing coffee. You can't rush it, or it comes out weak. And if you do it wrong, it leaves a bitter taste, and not in the good way. So I started slow. Small, harmless, plausibly deniable inconveniences. The kind of things that, on their own, could be chalked up to bad luck. But together they drive Brenda just far enough toward paranoia to make her stumble. Our office coffee maker had a built-in brew timer, something Brenda never bothered to learn how to use, because it's just faster to hit the button. I waited until she left for lunch one Friday, then set the machine to brew a pot at 3:17 a.m. every day, which meant by the time she arrived at 8:15, the coffee would be 5 hours old, lukewarm, and tasting faintly of regret. The best part, she thought the machine was glitching. On Monday, she grumbled loudly about cheap office equipment. By Wednesday, she was pressing random buttons to fix it, making the clock blink like a sad robot. One Tuesday morning, I noticed she'd left her sugar jar, labeled in big sharp letters, Brenda's, do not touch, right on the counter. The irony was too delicious to resist. That night, I came in early, thank you, insomnia, and poured out half the sugar, replacing it with salt. I made sure to stir it thoroughly, so it looked normal. The next morning, Brenda took her first sip of coffee and made a face like she'd licked a battery. She dumped the mug, made a fresh one, and had the same reaction. By the third mug, she was convinced the water filter was broken. I know this because she loudly announced it to the whole office, and I had to bite my tongue so hard I almost needed gauze. She always bought hazelnut creamer, the overly sweet kind that smells like a candle. I bought an identical bottle, emptied it, and filled it with almond milk. Then I put it back in the fridge, front and center. The next day, she complained the creamer tasted weird. She even accused Sophie, Oat Milk Sophie, my new quiet ally, of tampering with it. Sophie just shrugged and said, maybe you grabbed the wrong one. By week 3 of my campaign, Brenda was spiraling. Every minor hiccup in the kitchen became proof of a conspiracy. The coffee's too cold. Someone's messing with the machine. The creamer tastes off. Someone's trying to poison her. Her sugar is weird. Someone's ruining the communal vibe. I stayed out of it completely. Outwardly, anyway. When she complained in the break room, I'd nod sympathetically and say things like, that's so strange. Have you tried resetting the clock? Or maybe it's the weather. Around this time, Marcy from accounting slid into my DMs on Slack. Marcy, so are you behind the coffee stuff? Me, what coffee stuff? Marcy, LMAO, okay, never mind. Me, hypothetically, if I were. Marcy, I'd like to subscribe to your newsletter. Marcy became my unofficial intelligence officer, feeding me daily updates on Brenda's meltdowns. She even started casually moving Brenda's mug to different spots in the kitchen, just to make her think she was losing it. The first official escalation happened on a Thursday morning. I was at my desk when my phone pinged, an email from HR. Subject line, kitchen etiquette concerns. Apparently, Brenda had filed a formal complaint that someone was sabotaging her coffee. The email didn't name me, but the subtext was clear. They asked me, and everyone in the office, to please be mindful of others' personal items. Translation. We know this is stupid, but we have to pretend we care. The following Monday, Brenda came storming into the kitchen holding her travel mug. It happened again, she barked. The coffee is off. I walked in right on cue, holding my own mug of perfectly brewed French roast. Oh, mine's fine, I said, taking an exaggerated sip. Maybe it's just your taste buds? She glared. Something's going on. And when I find out who's behind it. Brenda, I said gently, maybe you just need to try a different brand. If looks could kill, I'd be buried in a coffee can by now. By the end of month 1, Brenda had complained to HR twice, accused 3 different people of tampering, replaced her sugar jar with a new one, which I left untouched, just to mess with her head, begun bringing her own thermos from home, and then forgetting it in the fridge, where someone, Marcy, would move it to the freezer. She was unraveling beautifully. The beauty of petty revenge is that you don't need to win in one big strike. You just keep brewing, slowly, until the bitterness seeps into every corner of their day. And oh, Brenda was steeping. The thing about slow burn revenge is eventually, you've got to turn up the heat, or in this case, the steam wand. Phase 1 had been about mild irritation. Harmless, deniable. Phase 2. Oh, Phase 2 was going to be personal. It started with a gift from my cousin, a small, gorgeous single-serve espresso machine. Chrome sleek, the kind of machine that says I know what crema is, and I'm not afraid to use it. I set it up right on my desk. Not in the kitchen, not in the communal area, my desk. The moment I pulled my first shot, the smell drifted through the open office like a caffeinated siren song. By the third day, people started swinging by just to chat. Around 9 a.m. Funny how those chats always coincided with me pulling a fresh shot. Coworkers would stop by, and I'd offer them a tiny paper cup of my espresso. Word spread. Even Kevin, who usually lived off vending machine Diet Coke, started drinking coffee again. Brenda? Never invited. It wasn't even subtle. She'd hover, mug in hand, pretending to refill her water bottle, watching us. But unless she asked directly, which she wouldn't, because Brenda doesn't ask, she takes. I kept smiling and pulling shots for everyone else. Here's where it got fun. I discovered Brenda had one coffee quirk. She couldn't stand strong espresso. Said it tasted burnt. But she couldn't resist free coffee either. So, I started leaving tiny sample cups on the corner of my desk, filled with the most intense, bitter espresso I could pull. No sugar, no milk, no mercy. Every time I left my desk for a meeting, I'd come back to find one missing. And every time, I'd overhear Brenda in the kitchen muttering, "Ugh, who drinks that?" Knowing she couldn't resist, I planted my next trap. I left a box of fancy-looking coffee pods in plain sight. Except I'd emptied them out and refilled them with ground chicory, caffeine-free, bitter, and utterly disappointing. Sure enough, 2 days later, the box was lighter. And Brenda was pacing the break room complaining about feeling weird because the coffee here just doesn't give me the same kick. I bit my lip so hard not to laugh I almost drew blood. By now, the whole office was invested. Marcy started live texting me updates when I was in meetings. Marcy, she's sniffing the creamer again. Me? Marcy, like she thinks it's poisoned. Me, well technically. Marcy, OMG, she's looking under the coffee machine. At lunch, I'd hear whispers. Did you see her face when she tried that cup? Who's even doing this? Honestly, I hope it never stops. It was a rainy Thursday when Brenda finally lost it. I was pouring a shot for Marcy when Brenda marched over. This has gone on long enough, she announced, hands on hips. Someone is sabotaging my coffee, and I will find out who. I sipped my espresso and said, that sounds terrible. Have you tried tea? Marcy choked on hers. Someone in the next cubicle actually snorted. By the end of the week, Brenda was twitchy. She started bringing in a travel mug from home every day, but left it in the kitchen where someone, definitely not me maybe, accidentally moved it to the top shelf of the fridge behind a stack of Tupperware. She was unraveling, and I was just about ready to end this war once and for all. Phase 2 had done its job. Brenda's confidence in her coffee kingdom was gone. She was drinking bitter shots she hated, complaining to HR with nothing to prove, and looking over her shoulder like the espresso machine was judging her. It was time for Phase 3, the grand finale, the roast to end all roasts. By this point, Brenda wasn't just annoyed. She was paranoid. The once confident coffee queen was now a caffeine conspiracy theorist, mumbling about sabotage and sniffing every mug before taking a sip. Perfect. Because the finale wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about performance art. One night after work, I ordered a bulk pack of custom coffee cup sleeves. On them, in neat black font, they read, "Please don't steal my coffee, Brenda." I distributed them quietly the next morning, slipping one onto everyone's mug before they came in. It was like a flash mob, but with passive aggression. By 9:05, the office looked like a coordinated protest. Brenda walked in, froze at the sight, and muttered real mature. Kevin from marketing grinned and said, "Hey, it's just a sleeve. Community spirit, right?" Marcy spearheaded this one. She started a coffee upgrade fund, just $5 each, to buy a high-end bean-to-cup espresso machine for the office. Everyone chipped in, except Brenda, who scoffed. Why should I pay for something I already get for free? When the machine arrived, we set it up in the corner, with a laminated sign. Coffee club members only. Ask for the access code. The access code was the same for everyone, except Brenda. When she asked, Marcy smiled sweetly and said, "Sorry, members only." For weeks, our Google Doc of coffee crimes had been growing. Marcy printed it, added time-stamped photos, including the one of Brenda dumping my beans in the trash, and put it in a sleek black binder labeled evidence. We kept it hidden until the perfect moment. The perfect moment arrived during a Thursday all-hands. Midway through a discussion about supply budgets, Brenda raised her hand. "I just want to address something that's been going on," she said, standing up. "Someone in this office has been deliberately targeting my coffee. It's harassment, and I think it's affecting my productivity." The room went silent. My boss looked tired already. "Brenda, this really isn't." "No," she insisted. "I'm serious. This person, whoever they are, is destroying the spirit of this workplace." That's when Marcy slid the binder across the table to the boss. He opened it, blinked, then slowly turned it toward Brenda. Page after page. Photos of her using other people's beans. Witness statements. Saw Brenda taking Sophie's oat milk. Claimed it was hers. Post-it notes in her handwriting. The infamous trash photo. Brenda's face went from red to pale in under 10 seconds. The boss cleared his throat. "Brenda, this is extensive." She sputtered. This is defamation." Marcy tilted her head. "It's literally your handwriting." The fallout was immediate. The boss suggested Brenda work from a different floor to give everyone space. That floor. The basement annex, with a vending machine that served instant coffee packets and powdered creamer. The next morning, her desk was empty. The coffee corner smelled like victory. In the weeks that followed, the coffee club thrived. The new espresso machine purred happily each morning. The binder of coffee crimes stayed in the break room, a piece of office lore. Every now and then, someone would slap one of those "please don't steal my coffee" Brenda sleeves on their mug just for fun. And me? I sipped my French roast in peace, watching the steam curl up like a trophy. Petty. Sure. Worth it. Every damn sip. Revenge is best served hot, and in a cup with your enemy's name on it. Thanks for watching the slowest, pettiest coffee war in office history.